Daily Mail puts an article out, says 2 women who denied being trafficked by Andrew Tate and his brother and insist they worked for him willingly are victims and have been brainwashed, says the Romanian judges. The Romanian judges have ruled. We're talking about Beatrice and Jasmine here. Jasmina, by the way, who just did that interview with Suleiman, just did that interview with Tom Khan. This is what the article says. The 2 women both claimed that they worked voluntarily for Andrew and Tristan Tate, but a report prepared by a clinical psychologist said they were both left with trauma and did not recognize that they were being exploited. The Romanian court ruled, and I quote, although the named woman 1 and woman 2, both in the statements given before the criminal investigation bodies as witnesses and through the authenticated statements given before the notary and submitted by the defense to the case file, denied any form of exploitation on the part of the 4 defendants, the Collegial Panel of Rights and Freedoms appreciates that these statements do not reflect reality. Oh, interesting. It is known that in the case of the lover boy or falling in love recruitment method, the victims of human trafficking do not always recognize the fact that they were enslaved and exploited and do not cooperate with the judicial bodies, attesting to the idea that these activities were carried out voluntarily. So this is deeply concerning information. What you have here is a clinical psychologist. Who is the clinical psychologist? We don't know. Who appointed that clinical psychologist? I'm going to ask Suleiman in a second about this. What was her connection to whom? What's going on here? But you have a clinical psychologist that can sit with a woman saying, I am not a victim. I was not exploited. This is not my statement. This is not what happened. And that individual then can just on a dime say, oh, this doesn't, you've been exploited. You just don't know it. You've been treated badly and now you're damaged and brainwashed. So your statement is null and void. And they can do that subjectively to suit a narrative if they so choose. Do we have any idea who this clinical psychologist is, Suleiman, or how does this person, this individual in a case like this, get chosen?
So from my understanding, this psychologist is actually non-court approved. So the women, although she is a qualified psychologist, the women went to her on their own volition. So, and from my own understanding, and again, I will need to verify this, but from what I understand, these other women didn't actually go to the clinical psychologist. So what the clinical psychologist has done is, based on what we're hearing, is if she's made this judgment, she has basically interviewed the United States woman as well as the UK woman, and based on what they've said, made an overarching decision that everybody else is brainwashed as well.
Oh, so in other words, what you're suggesting is that the clinical psychologist didn't actually meet with Jasmina and Beatrice, but instead met with the women who have made the allegations, assessed that those allegations were valid, and hence everyone else's assessment was invalid and brainwashing as a result of being contradictory to what the women making the allegations had said. That's what you're saying.
That's the conclusion I've come to based on what the evidence I have. So the evidence I have is the lawyer of the Tates saying that the psychologist that these 2 women saw was a non-court approved one and was someone they'd seen themselves, and as soon as they saw the person, they flew out the next day. And from what I understand, the information I have, that the Jasmine and Beatrice have not seen a psychologist. So if that's the case, one can only assume that what's happened is that he's made the judgment based on what I've said. Okay,
so we're going to have to talk to Jasmine. Audience, you want to hear from Jasmine? I think we can get her on. I want to know if she spoke to anybody, and I want to know what's going on here. That's outrageous, by the way. First of all, you can't use a non-court approved psychologist, psychiatrist, because who is that person? Do you understand what that means? That means that you can go to somebody, maybe it's your friend, your relative, who knows who that person is connected to, and you can get them to validate what you are saying or invalidate what somebody else is saying. Was there money exchange? What is going on there? That is completely corrupt. That is vile. It's outrageous. Also, what's outrageous to me is now we are selectively, this is not an evidence-based decision. We are selectively and subjectively deciding that one woman's statement is true and one woman's statement is false based on our own subjective opinions about what their experience was. This is not grounded in evidence. This is atrocious what's going on. I'm going to see if we can get Jasmina on the show. I think we want to hear from her and see what's going on there. If you like the short clip and want to watch the full episode, click here. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one on Connect, you're going to click right here. Let's get to talking.